Hello and welcome back to the Truth or Grief podcast. I just want to start this episode off by saying a massive thank you to everyone who's messaged in their words of support, sharing their stories with us. Also, it's been fantastic to see even over the first two episodes that were released to date. So thank you very much and keep those messages coming in. One of the requests that we have had come in is maybe a different perspective, and that change is on the opposite sofa to me. So, Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Lauren, Nellie's mum, Connor's partner. And apparently a lot of people wanted to hear from my perspective, I guess from a mother's perspective, from a partner's perspective, just from a woman's perspective, to be honest. I'm here to explain as best as I can and hopefully not mess it up.
So you had a lot of requests for you to come on the show. What's your initial thoughts on the response we've had so far for you to come on?
Well, it's nice to be wanted, I guess. I think I was very nervous. I still am. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing. I'm probably going to swear a lot. I've said about 5 times already. But yeah, I think if it helps people, that's what I'm kind of here to do. And yeah.
To start this off, I guess the first question that we have is Connor mentioned in the first episodes when we was going through this, there was an element of mother's instinct, and you felt that there wasn't something quite right with that. So what was happening at the time? What was making you think that? Why was you pushing for to get people to listen to you?
So I think it started because she was just not herself. She had a bit of an upset tummy. She was crying a little bit and she was normally quite happy. And she woke up with a rash, to be honest. That's what raised my alarm bells. And I immediately thought she's got meningitis. So I called the doctors and it was in the middle of the beginning of COVID. And I was like, I've got a 6-month-old, excuse me. I've got a 6-month-old. She's got a rash. She's got a swollen stomach. She's not happy. I need her to be seen. So they said, yeah, because of her age, come right down. So I've got Connor. Obviously, we've taken her up there. They've examined her, as Connor said, and they said, right, yeah, you need a second opinion. Her liver is inflamed. So yeah, we went through all that. Obviously, had to wait in hospital for a couple of days for them to do all the tests and scans and whatever. And obviously, yeah, she got the diagnosis of, she's unfortunately got 3 tumours and you're going to Great Ormond Street. And yeah, I don't really know what you're meant to do with that information. It's thrown at you. You can just hope and pray that everything's going to be okay. And yeah.
What was your initial reaction to being told the potential diagnosis to begin with? Because what Connor explained to myself in the first couple of episodes was almost they kind of went, oh yeah, it could be cancer. I'll see you later. What goes through your mind at that time?
So that was the first night we got to the hospital. We'd been there pretty much all day, straight from the doctors. And this lady just came in, like this doctor just came in and said, okay, so she's either got a viral infection or she's got cancer. And I was like, sorry? And it was midnight. It was that late. I think Connor said around 10, but it was even later than that. And I was just like, well, what would you like me to do with that information? What the hell? It was just, I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I thought, no, she's not. Like, that's kind of silly. I was panicking, but I was trying not to panic. So I was trying to tell my brain that I wasn't panicking, but I was panicking.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, we just need to get this ultrasound out the way. Once we've had that, we kind of know like what's going on. And it wasn't until 2 days after that lady said that we found out the news because they were just taking so long. And then, yeah, I didn't even realise when we was told the news that I screamed. That is blanked. I remember everything. I have a very, very, very good memory with 99% of it. But when we was told that news, my mind has gone blank. I don't know if my brain's trying to protect me. I don't know if I've just drowned that thought. But I cannot tell you what I was doing, what was going through my head when I got told that news. Any other news I can tell you, but in that exact moment, I almost left my body. Connor obviously said on the pod that I was screaming, and I literally said to him when we was watching it back, "Did I scream?" And he was like, "Yeah, Lauren, you really screamed." And I was like, I don't remember that. The only thing I remember from that day is obviously being told the news, but I don't really remember it. Having to get one of my friends to pick me up from the hospital to go and pack some bags. And they just said, "You're going to Great Ormond Street," but I didn't know how long for. I didn't know how much to pack for myself, for Connor. It was still one parent. So I thought, there's no point me packing loads for Connor if he's going to be sent home. There's no point in packing loads for me if I'm going to be sent home. So I had so many things that shouldn't have been on my mind, but were. And then, yeah, we just went to Gosh the next day, and it kind of, that's where it continued, really.
The way you remember things, the way Connor remember things, seem to be quite different. And it might, and we were discussing how like that's probably the grief in itself, maybe making that time a bit hazy, and because there's a few things I think when we put the first rough cut together, you was instantly like kind of like that we did this first or we did that in different orders. So
I'm not saying a mother knows best or remembers best or knows everything, but certain things will stick out in a mother's mind, whereas a dad kind of shows up, does it, goes home again. And that's not even just with grief, that is life. Whereas a mother has to think about every fine detail and live that.
Well, you just mentioned there that you were thinking of, everyone's like, well, we got clothes to wear. Like, I think Connor will probably say that didn't enter his mind or anything like that. So it's interesting that you've kind of gone from that angle. Is like I've got to make sure everyone's dressed, everyone's probably fed, and all of that. So yeah, it's I guess an interesting to see from your perspective to his, and probably the reason why people have requested for you to come on, because we've had a few messages come in from mothers, specifically asking for you to probably get a different perspective on the trail of thought, on what helped you, what you did to get through it. So if we go back to the time when you're in Gosh and everything that's going on in there, what got you through that time? Because obviously going back to the previous pods, during the height of COVID, being essentially locked into a room, not having your partner beside you, how do you deal with that situation?
I think at the beginning it was very secluded. Obviously one parent, and that was that. And then obviously Nellie had her 8 rounds of chemo, and then we got to go home in between. And then she had her stem cell transplant, which Connor hadn't mentioned, but we was in there for 6 weeks solidly. And while I was in there, I became friends with 2 other mums, and I'd already become friends with one other mum from seeing her in the kitchen, because there was a communal kitchen. And that was the only time you was allowed to leave your room, was to go to that communal kitchen to make a tea or coffee. So while I was in there for the 6-week stint, I became friends with 2 other mums, and one of them, Imogen, who might come on the pod one day, she had her son Rafi, and we would meet up. We'd have half an hour a day where we would go and have a pan au chocolate on the bench, have a cigarette, have a cry, have a laugh, have a chat, talk about how our kids are doing, or not talk about the kids at all. That was what really got me through. I've got a couple of memories of Dylan's mum, Amy, who might, again, come on the pod maybe one day. She was opposite our room, and we was rolling cans of alcohol to each other across the halls, and then quickly had to shut our doors because we wasn't allowed to have them open. And it's just little things like that that I will keep with me forever, because if I didn't have those little moments to keep me going, I don't know. I had a couple of like good friends as well, like who was at home, but they couldn't come visit
Mm.
or like in the hospital. One of my friends used to drive up because she used to work in London, so she would get the train, come and see me in her either her lunch break or after work, just for an hour. It's just those little things that it meant everything because we, as Connor said, we was locked in a room. Nellie was crying, sad, screaming. We're worried, not knowing what's like going to happen next, and just that little bit of reality just really brings you back.
Mm.
And yeah, I really don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my friends at home and my friends at the hospital, because they are now they are now lifelong friends. I could go to them about anything. They've had, they've each had a child after as well, and yeah, we're all just on the same vibe. They were called the Three Lions because we was all on Lion Ward,
Right.
and when they were all going through treatment together, it was the Three Lion Cubs, the Three Lion Cubs, and now unfortunately they've all passed away. So now the Three Lion Cubs are all together again. So it's like a bittersweet kind of
Yeah.
moment. But yeah, they are basically the kind of things that got me through, really. Just trying to feel normal. That was the only thing I can really think of.
So just going to that park bench was,
Yeah.
you didn't have to think about what was going on back there. You could just take yourself away for a moment.
100%. That it makes me a little bit emotional because I think we had so many chats, me and Imogen, so many chats, and we laughed together, we cried together, and that's just what the cancer journey is all about.
Mm.
Or grief, just grief. It doesn't just have to be child loss. It's when two people are like colliding with grief, you get trauma bonded in a way, and that is very important. If two people have lost a sibling, you're trauma bonded. If two people have lost a parent, you're automatically trauma bonded. And when you're in a ward full of people, well, kids with cancer, you're only going to get trauma bonded. And yeah, they just stick with you forever, really, but in a good way.
Is that I've not heard that phrase before, like trauma bonded. Is that something that you're labeling it, or is that a thing? Like, do people?
I think it's a thing. I mean, I've heard it before and I'm using it, but yeah, I think it's just when two people have been through a catastrophic event. Like me and Connor are trauma bonded now because we've both been through the same like situation. Me and Imogen are trauma bonded.
You bring up Connor there, and that was one of the things I wanted to touch upon, because we have spoke off camera about a few things that we want to touch upon, and one of them is the relationship with Connor that you had throughout that time. And one of the things that we spoke about was after the initial period, and after Connor going back into work, you then not dealing with the situation on your own as such, but him getting a bit more normality back into life than what you had, because you then become...
Oh, solo.
You were solo. Yeah, you become the primary carer there. Not to... I don't want that to come across in a way that maybe we're not saying Connor wasn't there,
I know what you mean.
But he had to go to work. He had to make sure there's money coming in to pay the bills. He had to essentially leave you and Nellie more often than maybe you would have liked. But I think we did touch on it in the pod with Connor. Is that unfortunately had to happen. So I guess a long-winded question is, throughout this process, from your perspective, how did that affect you and Connor with that relationship? You say you're trauma bonded now, but what was going through your mind in relation to your relationship with him?
I had, and I probably still have, some resentment, because coming from a selfish point of view, I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything else to kind of focus on other than Nellie. So when obviously we was in the hospital, it would get to the point where I was on maybe day 4 and I'd be pulling my hair out. I'd be stressed. I wasn't the best mum. I wasn't the best caregiver. I wasn't in the place to give Nellie my all. I would need to have a break, and I would be met with, "Oh, but babe, I've got this, I've got that, I've got that," and I would be like, "I don't care. You put this first," kind of thing. So it caused a lot of friction, and I just want to be transparent for other couples who are listening that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I'm not going to come here and say, "Yeah, it was hard, but we've got through it," because it's a load of shit.
Yeah.
We went through the worst thing that anyone can go through. And to say that we've come out unscathed is a big fat lie. And yeah, when Nellie was in the hospital, I had many a breakdown. I had many a days where I would call him screaming, "I need you to swap with me. I can't do it anymore." And he'd be tired. His hands were tired. He can't just drop what he's doing to come and help me. And equally, he can't put his all into Nellie and us because he's got a business to run.
Yeah.
You've got to remember, well, I don't know if Connor said, it was purely him and his business partner running the company, like it's their company. He hasn't got anyone else to rely on. It's not fair for his business partner to pick up all the slack. And yeah, it did cause a lot of issues, a lot of friction, a lot of arguments. And it's just life. We didn't have the luxury where he could just, "That's it, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm putting my all in," because we wouldn't have a roof over our head.
Yeah.
So at the time, I didn't see it. And I thought, how could you not put everything into this? Like, how could you be so selfish? When in reality, he wasn't being selfish. I was being selfish. But it's only taken 4 years to get to that point where I can look back and think, fuck, I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have given him all that shit. But again, it's life. It's just life.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, I don't think anything in life can prepare you to go through what you and Connor went through. And I think you can look back on it now and say that, but ultimately, I'm no expert in genders, and I'm just a normal person. But I've seen enough to know that your straight instinct is completely about care, to look after, whereas Connor's will be protection. Will be to provide for you, Nellie, anything to do, your pets, your dogs, to make sure that they were, everyone's. So it's a different way of looking at things, and I think I said it in the first or one of the whatever episode it is with Connor is, to look back. I think I said hindsight's a wonderful thing. Everyone says that, it's a sort of thing. So in hindsight, you can look back and I wish I didn't do that. But end of the day, you went through one of the most traumatic things you could at probably the worst time in our lifetimes to do it during COVID. And as young parents of your first child, you can't blame yourself or Connor or that situation because there's no guide on how to deal with this, and I think I say that there's no guide, but I think obviously the reason why Connor and yourself wanted to set up this podcast was to try and get people to talk and to understand the processes and how to potentially deal with it a little bit. Because ultimately we can provide as much help as possible by talking about it. But like I say, there's no rule book. Everyone deals with it differently.
And there is no right or wrong. It's just you do whatever you can do in that moment to keep afloat. Whatever keeps you alive. And I say that with every part of me because unfortunately some people who do go through this do end their lives because they can't take it. And I think for anyone listening who hasn't gone through it, the worst thing you can say to someone is, "I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you carry on. I couldn't do it." Because it almost feels like you're saying, "How are you still standing after your daughter died? You obviously didn't care enough." That is how it is like reciprocated. So I just want people to be a bit more mindful of when they're saying things to someone. You can say things like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine. I'm so sorry you went through that. But to kind of like say little things like that, it's really insensitive. And I think a lot of like lost parents would agree. Just try and be just supportive. Don't try and be smart, or don't try and say the right thing. Just say the basics.
So Connor mentioned that when a few people he had around him did reach out just to sort of check in. From your perspective, I know you. I know you've got some really close friends, and obviously you made friends in Gosh. But what would be what did you want to hear from anyone, if at all? Like, did you want anyone to reach out and talk to you about this?
What I wanted to hear, or what would have helped me, is just, I think Connor's already said this, sending a message of, I'm thinking of you, I'm here if you want to talk. Don't feel pressured to reply, because you do. You've got all these things going through your head of, what scan has she got next? What are her results going to be? Has she eaten enough today? Has she met her fluid intake? Has her belly grown today? Your mind is doing 100 things a day. Having to sit there and think, I haven't replied to this person, this person, this person. We just don't need that. But to have on the end of your message, thinking of you, don't worry about replying. You think, oh, okay. It's just little things like that. I think any advice I could give to someone who's either in my situation or could potentially go through it, obviously God forbid, is just talk. And I know Connor says it, and I know everyone says it, and it might come across as cliche and boring and, well, yeah, obviously you're going to talk, but just talk. We both bottled it up. I was more open, probably being a woman, whether that's stereotypical or not, but I would have a little rant to my friends sometimes, but never go into details. I'm not a private person, you know me. Not private, I'm an open book. You can ask me whatever you like. But when it comes to certain subjects, I'd rather just go, yeah, everything's all right. Dark humour. I'll take the piss out of the situation instead of saying, yeah, I'm really struggling. I'm having a really fucking bad day. I'll go, yeah, I'm all right, because I can't be bothered to go into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, I don't even know what someone could say to make it better. What is the point of offloading all this, making someone else feel uncomfortable, for them to just say, I'm so sorry? And I think, I've just typed out a massive paragraph to you, and you don't know what to say. And it's just difficult. It's just...
Yeah, I think that was from my perspective. I think I keep referring back to the previous pod, because obviously this is all connected. But when I was speaking with Connor about this, is I wish I did reach out more, but it's so difficult to know what to say. Like, we even with this now, us here now, we've spoken before. It's like, I don't want this. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to ask the wrong question. I don't want it to come across the wrong way. And it's a very difficult thing to approach. And yeah, I think hearing you and Connor both say, just a message to reach out. Thinking of you. Here if you need me. Don't worry about replying. Is good advice, because if I had known that back then I'd have done that more often. But at the same time, I was also in the mindset is, like you say, I don't want to be number one or number 99 of 1,000 WhatsApp messages that you've got. That was what was on my head. It was, have you got a load of unanswered messages that you do? I just don't want to deal with that. But I guess in hindsight, that was the right thing to do, or at least from yours and Connor's perspective, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think people listening will probably sit there and think, oh, my friend's just gone through something terrible and I didn't reach out, and kick themselves. But this is new to everybody. It was new to my friends when my daughter was diagnosed. It's affected everyone. Not obviously to the extent it has me and Connor, but my friends have never had to deal with their friend's kid getting diagnosed with cancer. My parents had never had to deal with that. Connor's parents hadn't. Like, it is such a new situation, but you just got to be mindful. Sometimes saying nothing can come across not rude, but like you don't care. But that's if you've never messaged.
Mm.
Like, if you're friends with someone and you just ghost them when they're in their time of need, that's a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to say the wrong thing, you can just send a heart, just so they know that you're on their mind. Like, it's not a lot. And obviously, this is what this pod's all about. We just want to help from every angle. If you realise that you fucked up in a situation, that you wasn't there enough for someone, apologise for it now. Or not even apologise, just say, hey, I've been thinking, I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you enough. And that person will think, that is so nice. Like, you've taken accountability, kind of thing. But no one wants to feel guilt. No one wants to feel consumed by situations that they can't control, kind of thing. So yeah, I don't think anyone should beat themselves up about anything.
Have you had any messages where you've kind of gone, what?
Fuck.
Yeah. what the F?
Yeah, I've had a couple. I had one person message me freshly when she was diagnosed, kind of saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I've heard about Nellie. What did you do so I don't do it?" Basically, and I was like, "What?" I kind of took me aback, to be honest, and I thought, "How dare you? Like, I'm already blaming myself enough. When your child has anything, you blame yourself." Like, Lenny, my 2-year-old, fell off the sofa earlier, and I sat there and thought, oh, if I was only a little bit quicker to pick him up. And that is just the tiniest thing. Like, parents are filled with so much guilt every day about anything. You don't need to say little comments like that.
No, that's, I mean, yeah, I mean, that is a comment that I think most people should know is not the right thing. So one of the things that we've had quite we've had quite a lot of questions, and in the messages that we have received is how you felt with the kids from since Nellie's passing. So you've now got 2 boys, Lenny and Renly, and you fell pregnant with Lenny quite soon after. So like how does that all play into this? What was the emotions going around then?
Nellie passed away on the 7th of March 2021, and I found out I was pregnant with Lenny the 6th of June. So I found out 3 months later, and it was a shock. But a couple of days prior, my friend had said about this psychic medium, and I said, no, not a bit of me. It's a load of shit. Can't do it. Not interested. And my friend was like, Lauren, I wouldn't tell you to go to her if she wasn't good. Please just hear me out. Let's go. And I said, all right, don't tell her my name. Don't tell her anything about me. Book it under your name, because she knew who she was, like, a little bit. So anyway, we've turned up, and she said, oh, hello, like, who are you? So I said, oh, my name's Lauren. So she said, oh, okay, blah, blah. We was talking. She was lovely. She was sitting there having a fag, doing my reading, like, but I loved that. I loved that vibe. I loved the rawness. I loved the no shit, no, like, facade, whatever it's called. It was just raw. It was just like vibes. It was just pure vibes. So I thought, okay, yeah, I can fuck with this. Like, this woman's cool. So I was sitting there, and she was talking to my friend Bethany, like, here or there a little bit. So she said, right, do you want to get started? So I said, yeah, cool. And we'd got into it a little bit, and she was saying, like, oh, I get the vibe that you don't like driving. I don't like driving. I will avoid it at all costs. So I thought, okay, yeah. And then it was, you got a lot of anxiety, a lot of, like, worries and, like, emotions. And I said, yeah, I've struggled with my mental health for a long time, but I think everyone has. So I thought, okay, I'll see where she's going. And it was, I've got the feeling that you've lost someone close to you. So I thought, yeah, that's what most people go to psychic mediums for. And it was someone that you cared for, like you was like a mother figure. So I said, yeah, I lost my daughter. She thought, oh, I'm so glad that you said that, because I didn't want to say it in case, like no one just wants to come out with that.
Yeah.
So I said, yes, I've lost my daughter. So she said, I'm so sorry. And she went to me, you're pregnant. I went, no, I ain't. And she said, you're pregnant. I said, no, I'm not. I'm due on my period today. TMI, guys, but this is how it is. I said, no, I'm due on my period today. I'm like clockwork. Not happening. So she said, I'll put a lot of money on it. You are pregnant. So I said, yeah, okay, whatever. Brushed it off. And she said, this baby's being sent to you for a reason. I said, there's no baby. I don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. I thought, yeah, you're just clutching at straws here. You probably tell everyone that they're pregnant, and then they get pregnant a couple months later, and it's like, yeah, I knew it. So anyway, had the reading. It was quite nice. It was like, this baby's been sent for a reason. It's been sent for your daughter. They're going to be like very similar, this, that, and the other. So I thought, oh my goodness. But I still wasn't really believing it. But I thought, yeah, all right, you're selling a good story here. Went home. I went to the pound shop, and I brought a packet of pregnancy tests, a little 2-pack. Pound, can't go wrong. And I took it. It was negative. I thought, fucking bitch, lied. She lied. Freaked me out for nothing. So I went home that night, went to my friend's house, downed a bottle of wine or two, had a blast. Well, I say have a blast, but just doing whatever I could to numb the pain. And the next day, I hadn't come on my period, and I thought, oh, she's late. What's going on here? Day after, still hadn't come on my period. I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then it was the Monday, and I was like, I'm just going to take that other test, because there was obviously a pack of 2, and it was positive. So I've called Connor. He's in the middle of a meeting, and I've gone, I'm fucking pregnant. He's gone, yeah, right, Lauren, I'll call you back in a minute. Hung up. So I'm sitting there pacing, sweating, panicking, thinking, oh my fucking God, I'm pregnant. What am I going to do? And I generally think to this day, if I hadn't have gone to that psychic medium, I don't know if I would have kept the pregnancy at that time. Mentally, I don't know if I was completely there. It was so soon after losing Nellie. It was not planned. But life happens, and if you believe in that kind of stuff, Nellie sent Lenny to us, and that's kind of where Lenny got his name from. You swap the N and the L around, and it basically makes this Lenny from Nellie. And yeah, it was hard. I had to stop drinking. Me and Connor's coping mechanism, which is kind of how Lenny was conceived, was from alcohol, just to numb the pain. I did not want to think about anything. I didn't want to feel anything. I wasn't working, so I thought, I'm just going to get pissed all day, every day. What else is there to do? I don't have a job. I don't have a child to look after anymore. I've got a dog that was just as miserable as I was. She just sat on the sofa with me. So I'd literally wait for Connor to get home from work, sometimes start sooner, and we would just drink and just not have to worry, not think about anything. And it was rough. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I had to stop. But Connor, that was his coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So for him to carry on drinking when I had to stop cold turkey because I was pregnant, that caused a lot of friction. A lot of arguments was had because I was like, that is so selfish. I was using that as a coping mechanism. Why do you get to carry on but I can't? While growing our child, like that is just so selfish. And he was just like, yeah, but blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, no. Call me a bitch. I could have been a bitch, but I was really, really hurt by that. And I think Connor went down a very slippery slope, and it got quite dark. And I basically said to him, I was like, you need to call the doctors because this is only going to end one way and I don't want to be on my own, basically. So he called the doctors, basically said, I can't fucking do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I had the baby to keep me going. But from a man who isn't pregnant, you don't connect in the same way. This is just from what Connor's told me. I'm not.
Yeah.
So I was just holding on to the fact that I was pregnant. I couldn't do anything silly because I was responsible for another life again.
Mm.
Whereas, he didn't have the same mentality. So he went on the antidepressants and, his pregnancy was rough. He was born 11 months after she passed away. So he was only a month old on our 1 year anniversary. So yeah, it was really tough. And his first year of life, I think I took him to the doctors and A&E 8 times, thinking he had cancer, thinking he had something else. It never leaves.
I was going to say, yeah. How does having a child after going through what you went through with Nelly, how does that affect your relationship with your child as well? Because again, you just said there, like you took him to the doctors a number of times. I'm sure every time he's got a runny nose, your brain's probably running overtime on what's the, what is it? Like, is
Yeah.
this another case of cancer? Is this another case of something?
Yeah. I think being exposed into like the medical world, as much as knowing all the signs and symptoms of not just Nellie's cancer, all cancers, it's a blessing, but it's also a curse, because the minute there was a bruise, he's got leukemia. The minute he's got a rash, oh my God, he's got meningitis. The minute anything happens, my brain just goes straight there. And it's made me not ill to the point of like really, really bad, but it keeps me up at night. It's caused tension between me and Connor again, because he's like, Lauren, it's fine. And I'm like, but you said that before.
Mm.
And it wasn't. I can't take anyone else telling me it's fine until I know it's fine. And I have to talk myself down a lot. I have to really weigh up the options, and I have to take in all the factors. I don't just look at a rash and think, oh my God, he's got meningitis, or oh my God, he's got cancer. I have to think, does he have this? Does he have that? Does he have this? He's probably not got cancer. But my brain, I can't stop it. It is just autopilot, and I'd say weekly. It is weekly. I have he's not right. He's limping, or he's got this, or oh my goodness, he's looked at me funny, and my brain will just go, you need to panic. You need to be on high alert, because the 2 times I took Nellie in to be checked, the 2 times something terrible happened, and I'm just constantly trying to prepare myself, I think, as well. So if I sit there and I think, if I take Lenny to the doctors because he's got bruises, they could tell me he's got leukemia. I've already prepared myself for that.
Mm.
I wasn't prepared for her to be diagnosed with cancer. So it's almost like a protection in a way, but it's ruining me in another way. So it's so difficult, and I do feel sorry for my kids in a way, because I'm just constantly grabbing his arm, having a look at him, and yeah, it's hard. It's very hard.
It's never gonna.
It's never gonna go.
No, it's always.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying my hardest, and at the beginning it was worse. I would just take him, no questions asked. Whereas I can now talk myself down from that ledge. It doesn't always work, but I'm definitely getting better. But we're nearly 4 years on now. So I've had time to process my emotions, think about it. I've had a bit of therapy here and there, and I remember one therapist, my first ever therapist, was, what's the likelihood of your other child getting cancer? I said, what was the likelihood of my first? And she kind of had nothing to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just difficult.
You've obviously come on today. We may see your face again in the future if people want any more questions to be answered from yourself, or something else that you want to talk about. But you will see myself and Connor's face a lot more frequently. But you are still very much involved in this podcast, and very much all over the social channels. So I don't know if you want to go over that, what your kind of involvement is with this going forward.
Yeah, so obviously I don't have a role. It's I'm more behind the scenes. So if someone messages, I'll read them, proof it, send it to the guys. They'll be like, yeah, answer it, obviously, as you will. So I just wanted to add, if anyone is out there who is going through this situation, is a friend of someone going through this situation, feels that they don't have anyone to turn to, or they don't want to turn to their support network in case they don't want to bother them, or they might not know what to say, so what's the point kind of thing. Like, the truth of grief is here. I am at the other end of the phone, well, messages or whatever, to reply and to talk you like through it or whatever it is. Someone is there to answer. No matter if you think it's silly, it's probably not. If you think it's inappropriate, it's probably not. Like, we're all open books here. Nothing is too deep. If you've got a question that you think, oh, I might not want to ask that, like, I don't want Lauren to get upset, you can't. I've been through the worst. You can't upset me. Like, I've got pretty thick skin now. And all I want to do is help people. And yeah, I don't want anyone to feel alone. It's just, it's not a nice place to be. And
No.
I know it all too well.
Well, I think we've had a few messages like that in already that I know you've spoken to. And I think one of the messages put it really nicely, which is, you're turning pain into purpose. And I think the original goal set out for this podcast, we kind of already achieved. I think we said in the first one, which is if it just helped one person, then job done. Like this is kind of, we just want to get it out there and talk about it. And I think that's done it tenfold, yeah, even more. It's so amazing. So yeah, it's been really great to see these messages come in, albeit some of them from a situation that we wouldn't want anyone to go through, but it's nice to see people talking, communicating, and that's really what we're advocating for, which is more of that. So yeah, if anyone needs someone to talk to, Lauren's at the end of the phone.
I'm here. Yeah, no, that's nice. The thought of anyone being on their own and not having anyone to talk to is just, it's not nice. So yeah, I'm here.
So that brings us to the end of this week's pod. Thank you for everyone watching. Please subscribe, like, and put your comments down below. It does help us reach more people. So we thank you for your support already. We've loved all the messages that we have coming in, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.